Today on Doomed! It's been a little while, but there is a lot going on in the professional wrestling world. So on today's episode of Doomed with Matt Binder, we will be diving into a number of stories that really prove once again that pro wrestling is real life. We'll be talking about the latest update, really the end, as far as I know, of the Lauren Boebert Sweet Stan Lane saga. We'll be diving into Vince McMahon's return to the WWE in order to close its merger deal with the UFC. And we'll be talking about the WWE and Saudi royal family connection based on the news today, the day we are streaming this episode, June 6, 2023, that the PGA Tour golf, like the biggest golf tour, is merging. It really, actually, it seems like the Saudis are really acquiring it in order to merge it with its own LIV Golf, LIV Golf, however you say it. I'm not a golfer. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me first pull us up on the stream here. Here we go. I got my guest in my ear, so let's bring him up. Joining me today on the program is journalist David Bixenspan, who let me know that, by the way, while I was doing that intro, that it is exactly pronounced that way. It is LIV Golf, right, David?
Yes.
And welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back. So, okay, when was the last time you did the WrestleMania special? I don't think you've done it the last 2 years, have you?
No, I definitely missed it this year. I don't know if I can't remember if I did it last year. I don't think I did.
I think the last one you did was Tampa or the No Fans one.
I think so, right. And it's basically because I'll be honest here. I went from being a regular pro wrestling watcher, watching every single Monday Night Raw, catching the NXTs and SmackDowns when I could, watching every single special event, PPV, to sort of taking it as I could. Like if I could catch it, I would. And I think it's a combination of, me just being busy, which is nothing I can do about that. But also, I will say that the pandemic era of pro wrestling, where there was no fans in the audience,
it was demoralizing. Yes.
Yeah, they sort of. I mean, nothing they could do about it. They tried their best. I mean, what they should have done about it is just not have it. But I mean, they lost me a little bit. It was rough to get back in. I do watch some of the events now. My kid is starting to get a little bit more and more into it. But that's pretty much why I did catch WrestleMania, but just didn't do the whole. I mean, I did a WrestleMania post-show Twitter space because I loved the Sami Zayn, Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes storyline so much that I had to defend it.
Well, and I did also bump into you at a Grand Slam in September.
That's right. I did go to that AEW. I've been enjoying AEW. AEW is fun to watch. I think it suffers from the same storyline problems the WWE does, but it's still fun to watch, just like WWE is at times.
Yes, that was also the night where I learned that you can get a comp as media and have a +1 since you had your son with you.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, I asked. They weren't going to give it to me at first, but I asked if I could get a +1, and they said because they had the seats.
Well, that's nice of them. Yeah. Although the seats were not as good as they were the year before. The year before, they had the media like basically the first row off the floor.
I heard about that. I remember you or somebody tweeting about it, and hey, it's can't complain about I
mean, there's no bad
tickets.
Seats there anyway.
Right. So let's dive in to this because there's a lot to talk about. I want to make sure we get to it all. I think we should start with the there's a few really like seeped into the news. We gotta start with
Boebert. That's the most doomed thing.
Right, because we did do the episode on it. We did do the previous episode on it. For those who aren't aware, can go back and check it out. We'll give a little bit of a summarized catch up here on this episode. But why don't you take it away, David, and tell everybody how There were strong rumors to the point that the gossip was beyond just gossip. It was almost too hard to even ignore how much people were talking about this, where Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert was rumored to be the daughter of a old school pro wrestler from back in the Territory days, Sweet Stan Lane.
Yeah, I mean, I would call it more than a rumor. I don't think rumor's necessarily the right way.
Right, because I don't want people to think like that. Like I just decided to, because I don't usually talk about like drama and gossip and things like that.
It will explain too why
this
it became
was way
a thing. Yes.
Right. This was way more. Right. Go ahead, take it away.
Right. So last year, I think it was February. Oh, not last year, 2021. Excuse me, 2 years ago. All of a sudden, I mean, it picked up a little bit of steam, but not as much on Twitter. But it was like Twitter and like one of the Chan boards. People, I don't know what they were searching for where, or if they just happened to be looking at some old YouTube videos and saw some weird comments. They noticed that on YouTube and on some Facebook stuff, you could find posts where Lauren Boebert's mom was asserting, and this is back in like 2008 for some of them, 2013 for the others.
Right. Before both dates are before Lauren Boebert was an anybody. She wasn't even running for Congress. She was a complete unknown.
I think 2013 is even before her restaurant too. That made her like a very minor conservative media celebrity because of the whole thing with the waitresses packing heat and that whole nonsense.
Oh yeah, it was definitely, we definitely have not known about Lauren Boebert for 10 years. Time has not flown by that quickly yet. Yes.
No. So her mom, Sean Bentz, is posting this stuff about Stan Lane being her dad, and at one point Lauren chimes in like on her mom's account, but it's clearly her and her voice, and later on her own account, not as vociferously, but kind of seconding what her mom had said in comments on other videos. This is all in comments of like old Stan Lane wrestling videos and more recent Stan Lane powerboat racing videos, because his post-wrestling career was being an announcer at powerboat racing, offshore boat racing. Yeah, I don't get it either.
Right.
But there was Facebook posts too. I think there were a couple tweets you could even find. And eventually this picked up steam when someone tweeted it at, I think it was Will Menaker. And I think he shared it, was how it kind of started to become more known. And I started digging, and people were mainly joking about it, but there was something that felt like more to it, like even before anyone did more due diligence. You know what I mean? There was just something that's like, well, okay, these appear to be real social media accounts. Stan Lane isn't necessarily famous enough that it's a whole thing you gin up. There's got to be more to this.
Right. I mean, I think the real moment where this, to me, went further than just like online bullshit talk, was the realization that this could actually possibly be true.
Right.
From that episode of the Jim Cornette podcast.
Well, there was a little bit before that.
Oh, I don't remember. Go ahead.
So I hadn't tweeted anything at first, but there were people who searched the Seminole County, Florida court system and did see there were real paternity cases. They couldn't see more than just the case names and the dates and the some of the things that were on the docket.
I remember this. This was right. Go ahead.
But that's where it became clear that, okay, there's something here. Regardless of whether or not he's the dad, there's something to this. Like, clearly she did actually sue him. Yeah.
This is a legitimate news story. This isn't just people spitballing here.
Right. And not knowing who it was about, Cornette had a year or two earlier mentioned a paternity case against Stan where he tried to get out of being served with paperwork at the Charlotte Coliseum by pretending to be like a shower faucet repairman or something. And without belaboring the point too much so I don't forget it later, later when I got the court paperwork and everything, it showed, they tried to serve him one time in that case at the second Charlotte Coliseum on the first wrestling show, there. So there was that. In the meantime, though, I think I may have been let you know privately that I looked into the court stuff. And what I found that other people missed. So Florida is weird in that, we've talked about this before. Florida might have the best public records laws in the country. A lot of their court systems are very online, etc.
Which is great for journalists when they're looking up information, and I should say legit journalists looking up information that's actually relevant to the public. Not so great for the people of Florida, who every single person's lowest point is out there for everybody to know all the details of.
Right. The origin of the whole Florida man meme is just that it's easier to get stuff in Florida.
Right. The same shit happens in every single state in this country, yet Florida is the place that actually publicizes every single one of its citizens, again, like I said, lowest points for the public to view.
Right, exactly. And one quirk of theirs, I'm not sure if this is a law outright or just a policy that is held by the various counties, and I've seen similar stuff elsewhere, is that family court stuff, if it's public record, to see the actual documents, you need to have a login to the county court to be able to see it. Like, they want an extra layer of privacy for family court cases, which is understandable.
Right.
How you get a login varies by the county. Some, like Seminole County, you just need to sign up, which we'll get to in a second. Others, like Orange County, which is where Orlando is, and this is why I've never done it, and usually I'll just ask someone who, is a lawyer there to get stuff for me if I need it. You need to send them a notarized letter. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going to a notary and getting a notarized letter so I can occasionally.
Well, now you could just get notarized online. There's services that do it for you via.
But then I'd still have to send the physical letter. And I don't live as close to a post office since I've moved. But anyway.
But you got them contacts, so it all works out.
Right. So what other people who were looking didn't realize is if you just register and log in, the one thing that there was a digital record of, because it was something that Boebert's mom had filed in 2013, I could just grab a copy of that from the website. But most people didn't realize that. They didn't think, I need to register and log in. It's not like that's made clear or anything. That it's there, but you need some kind of special access. So once I see this, and it's this letter she also sent to authorities in North Carolina where you got the DNA test in the past and stuff, she's laying out this whole scenario. And, okay, so doubling back on the Cornette thing real quick, because I don't want to get away from that. He covered the discussion on his podcast, and as they're doing it, he does realize that the timeline at least lines up. That if Stan Lane had sexual relations with her, when Lauren Boebert was conceived was at a time when he was working in Florida and, would have regularly been in the Orlando area. So, he realized, oh shit, this could line up, but he didn't know anything else beyond that. It didn't seem like he thought that there was any paternity case, if there was more than one, that Lane was more concerned about than others. So that's where that was, but it did pick up a little more steam, but then it kind of got dropped for a couple months. In the interim, which, though, I'm working on an article for Mel Magazine that ends up coming out because I got that, and then that led me to get stuff from Mecklenburg County in North Carolina. And you read the letter that Boebert's mom sent the authorities, and at first you're thinking, oh, God, this is just conspiracy nonsense. Because she's talking about how there was a DNA test and he wasn't the father, but she believed that he was still the father. And then you see, and this was easily provable when I got the other court records, and you could find news coverage, the phlebotomist who took Stan Lane's blood when he did the DNA test in 1990, after dodging service for years, by the way, She was charged and convicted in swapping samples in another case for a former NFL player who wanted to get out of child support, and she just flagged a guy off the street and was like, hey, do you want to give your blood for an experiment? I think maybe she paid him too, but still, it was proven that the woman who took the blood was willing to, for money, falsify test results. So this is something that's also, I think, is very important in my Mel Magazine article, kind of hammered home at the end. You can very easily see why these two women would become conspiracy theorists. Like, there is a part of me that very much empathizes with the younger versions, at least of both of them. And once you realize that, it's like, okay, wait a second. And by the way, she did not find out about this in the 90s when she was supposed to. I'm not clear on if they had moved to Colorado yet, and that's why they couldn't, North Carolina couldn't find them, or if they didn't try or whatever. They were never notified of this, Boebert and her mom. So they didn't find out until like 2008. And they eventually got in touch with one of Stan's cousins, and she was on their side, but he wouldn't do it. And there was no noise we could find between 2013 and 2021. I had kind of figured it had been taken care of by that point, because there was no trace of anything after 2013. When I reached out, her press secretary didn't respond to requests for comment. Messages I sent and left for the cousin and for Stan Lane and his wife weren't returned, and Stan's personal representative of sorts of the wrestling world, Sal Carenti, said he wouldn't comment on anything regarding Lauren Boebert. But still, I had enough for an article. People can go search for it if they want.
You came on to discuss it on this very show.
Yes, and Zach Petruzzo did do a story in Salon a few months later that apparently he was working on concurrently. And he got a little bit more stuff than I did, and he did find out that Lane had been ruled against by a family court judge in Florida and was supposed to pay $100 a week child support, and it looks like he never did. But regardless, he was legally clear in 1990, but that's the other thing, too, I should add. He was dodging out of wrestling in Florida until after the test came back. So, like, I get the feeling he thought that she could have been his daughter.
Right. I mean, it's clear that the story felt to him that it was possible enough for him to. I mean, he went out of his way to really avoid them for as long as possible.
Right, and what we're getting to now, and that made headlines, especially once Boebert confirmed it to Zach.
I just want to before we get to that, I just want to just for a second, just again say how wild the whole fraud story is. That, like, I just think that's insane, and the fact that that happened so long ago and it took till now for it to get redone is crazy, actually.
Yeah. So So when we get to what happened last month that we found about over the weekend, we have no idea what happened in the interim. I have my guesses. Maybe we can get to that, but I'll be clear, it's just spitballing. But Saturday afternoon, I get a DM from Sal Carenti, who's like, I have an update on this. There's some stuff I can send you. And I was like, sure. And it turned out I had not realized he had sent the same stuff to Mike Johnson and PW Insider 5 hours earlier, but no one had really picked up on it yet for whatever reason. Right. It included some photos and screenshots that he later asked people to take down. I don't think he did not make that clear in the initial email, but it included a statement from Stan Lane too, and basically it was what was confirmed later by Boebert. They had somehow gotten in touch. They agreed to do a DNA test using a store-bought test. He agreed with her that she could come to Charlotte, North Carolina, and she would handle the chain of custody. She being Lauren Boebert. The mom was not involved at all. And she would handle the chain of custody. And they got the results back on May 11th, and he's not the father. And it's also this weird bittersweet thing because, again, look, I completely empathize with at least the younger version of Lauren Boebert. On one hand, she still doesn't know who her biological father is. On the other hand, at least now she knows that someone who actually was her father was not who was trying to evade paternity, you know? So it's weird in that sense. And, she gave a statement. She was honestly shockingly kind of mature about it. He said, he hopes that if she continues her search, that she finds some information in peace. But there's so many unanswered questions here. I mean, should we get to that first, or should we get to my emails that I got from her head press person?
Let's get to the emails, because I think we should sort of set everything that we know, and then we can talk about what's still left. Because it is pretty crazy that this was something that was legitimate enough to get this far, that they actually then end up connecting. And I think this seems to be the first time that Lauren Boebert actually connected with him, because she was probably too young back when this was all going on previously.
Any real way, yes. There's a story the mom told of, like, I forget if she got on, I think she did get on the phone with him too, but also finding Stan's mom's phone number at one point. So there had been some kind of brief communication when she was much younger, but nothing really substantial.
Right. So they finally get in touch, and then she gets the news. I mean, who the question I have, actually, this is a little bit, and you might have said it, but I may have, this has been confusing me when I've been reading it too. Who actually initiated the test? Like, who had to send what to who?
As far as, like, just what happened with the test,
yes,
it looks like she
one.
flew to Charlotte. They took their samples in front of each other, and she was who packed them and FedExed them to the lab.
Got it. Okay. All right. Because I was wondering what the chain of custody there was.
Oh, and also, just to get ahead of it real quick, because it's a thing that people still mention, and I don't like that they do, especially since it was made pretty clear in my article, and even people who link my article say this. The mom and Stan Lane are not cousins.
Right. That was an early rumor that was going around that I think you had even debunked when you came on this show.
Right. What it looks like happened is that in a Facebook post, either the mom had the cousin who I mentioned earlier had access to her account and was logged into the wrong account by mistake and posted something intended to be in the cousin's voice on her own account, or she, like, really more likely she clumsily copied and pasted something from an email from the cousin into her Facebook post.
Right.
And I should add this too, because we didn't mention it. There had been a claim that she had done a DNA test with the cousin and it showed a familial connection. Or the mom had said that. I don't think Lauren had ever actually said that. In the texts that got sent out, she says that there was no direct family connection, but it showed an ancestral connection. So whether the results were misinterpreted by the mom or she lied about them, we don't really know.
Got it. So Stan Lane, just to make it clear to everybody now, Stan Lane, you are not the father. Stan Lane is not Lauren Boebert's dad. The saga, is finally,
for him at least, yes, is
over. Oh, yeah, that's true, right? Because now the Boebert family does not have a lead on who.
I mean, let's be realistic. I mean, the mom was 16. Like, she has to know who it is, I would think.
I mean, it seems like she really thought it was Stan Lane. Like, I don't think this was
well, yes,
like bullshitting around, because this is something they really pursued for quite a while.
Well, yeah, she generally thought it was Stan Lane. I mean, I really don't want to even dare speculate why she wouldn't have considered whoever the hell else it is that's actually the biological father. Barring something ridiculous like Stan Lane is a chimera and has 2 sets of DNA.
Right.
But I mean, I don't even want to get into it because, honestly, the things that come to mind the quickest are kind of dark. So he's not the father.
So what, other than the Lauren Boebert's unanswered questions, are there other unanswered questions you have?
Well, we wanted to get to these emails first because it just makes everything weird.
Got it. Right.
So, I had emailed back and forth a little with Sal Carenti on Sunday because he had sent that email about, hey, like, if you write anything, please don't use those pictures. We didn't intend for them to be published. I'm like, yeah, sure, understood. And I explained to him, so, like, by the way, Mel Magazine folded. I talked to my editor who had been there, who edited the article. He doesn't know who to get in touch with. I can reach out to their PR people because obviously I want to update the article. I want to do the right thing.
Right.
But, I don't know any other.
It's a dead platform. It's a dead outlet.
Right. I emailed the PR person from the parent company that keeps the archive up, but I haven't heard back. So, not holding my breath on that. But I said, you should definitely reach out to Salon and see if they can add an update to their article. So, and Sal had said he was willing to talk to me a little more. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. I'm not sure what he was willing to say. Because I had kind of
just to remind everybody, what is his connection to this story?
He's just a former pro wrestling promoter and manager and stuff, and he's just been friends with Stan for a good 30 plus years.
So this was Stan Lane's side trying to get the information out.
Yes. And Jake Settle, who is her main press guy, I forget his current title because he's not press secretary anymore. There's a different press secretary now, but he's still the main press guy. He emails me last night at 11 p.m.
We have some late breaking news, it seems.
Yeah, I haven't tweeted about this or anything, but
an exclusive on Doomed. Here we go. David Bixenspan, bringing us the news, folks.
So he replied in the thread, "Hi, David. I hope you are well. I want to reach out to see if you would be willing to remove this document here." And he linked my document cloud upload of the Seminole County court thing that the mom had filed in 2013. The document contains sensitive information, and I would certainly appreciate if we're not available on the internet. Please let me know if you have any questions. Sincerely, Jake Settle, Senior Communications Advisor, Rep. Lauren Boebert, Colorado 3rd District. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. I remember trying to redact all the stuff you would normally try to redact: phone numbers, addresses, email addresses, etc. But it's a court file, and there's no medical information beyond just the DNA test results.
Right.
So I didn't redact anything else. And now, as I was looking it over, and we'll get into this in a second, I asked him, what did you mean? What do you mean? I tried to redact everything, that would be the stuff you normally redact. He did point out a few things in fairness that I had missed. If you've seen the document, the reproduction quality on it is not great. So there are address fields that were legible anyway that I missed, and maybe one phone number. But I went into Document Cloud, and I did those anyway because that's what I meant to do. But the rest of the follow-up email is kind of weird. So yeah, like I said, what sensitive information are you referring to? I thought I redacted all the usual stuff that one would look out for. If there's something I missed, please let me know.
And
so then he got back to me at, what time was this today? 12:20 p.m.
So what is it? What is that? What is it in this document that, again, remind everybody, this document should just mean nothing now, being that this DNA test is confirmed. There's no familial connection here. So
right.
What possibly could be bothering them here? Go ahead.
So some of it is phone numbers and stuff, as you'll see, and that I've redacted out since this, because like I said, I intended to do that anyway. So one, the first letter is her mother's private correspondence that predates Congresswoman Boebert running for office or becoming a public figure. It touches sensitive subjects like the death of Congresswoman Boebert's grandfather. Additionally, it touches on Mr. Lane's personal life and his family. He deserves his privacy since has long left the public spotlight. Okay. And then he mentions a phone number that I had not redacted by mistake. But, okay, again, anyone can get this. There's a little bit of a hoop to jump through, but anyone can get this, and it's online. And anyone can set up an account. There's no approval process.
But why would Stan Lane's people care about Boebert's grandfather?
I don't know, but I mean, this is from Boebert's guy.
Oh, this one's from Boebert's guy. Okay, but why would Boebert's guy care about Stan Lane then? It's the opposite. We'll just go with the opposite.
But yeah, everyone keep in mind, this is the main press contact for a sitting congresswoman that is writing this to me. And then he says, number 2, the letter beginning on page 4 includes private information about Mr. Lane. I'm not even sure what he meant by that. On page 5 and 6, more names of Mr. Lane's family members are revealed, people who never asked for the public spotlight. I mean, first of all, he is a public figure. He is undoubtedly a public figure.
He was a big-time pro wrestler back in the day.
And a powerboat racing announcer.
That's right. I always forget about that.
Yes. 3, the information on page 8 contains personal medical information of Mr. Lane and Congresswoman Boebert. This is the weirdest part. Because he's talking about basically the DNA test results from 1990. Both parties are concerned about this medical information being made public since it contains personally identifiable information due to the immutable nature of DNA. What the fuck? What does that mean? Why is he putting that in an email to me?
The immutable nature?
I mean, does he think someone can generate a DNA profile and clone her? I'm serious. I don't know what else he could be talking about.
Well, David, it's possible. Who knows?
I mean, okay, let me pull it up so I can describe what is on those pages too. Let's see. 7. Hold on, I defined it in a second, but it's like, I guess I'm trying to remember if I'm confusing it with because they did share the results. Maybe they're not online now, but they did share like the results printout from the new test too with the people they sent it out to. Oh wait, well, I'm being stupid. I can click the link in the email. Why do I need to look through the article? I don't understand. I really don't understand what he's saying there. I mean, do you have any idea what he's trying to say?
No, you got me there too. It's a bizarre. It's bizarre.
Yeah, okay, let me see. That's page 8. Okay. I mean, do you want me to send you the link so you can put it on the screen too?
Sure, send it over. And
okay.
let's
I'll send it to you on Twitter.
We already got lots of we got other important topics to get to.
Yeah, let me finish this, but I'll send you I'll send it on Twitter DM. It's page 8 of what I just sent you. So yeah, I genuinely don't get what he's saying there. And then the rest was okay. Number 4, the letter on page 14, which is from Stan's cousin, was written by a private citizen who never asked to be in the public spotlight and includes the names of other private citizens throughout.
Page 8, the paternity evaluation report.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's hard to read. It's a bad photocopy.
Yes, it is. And it's like, okay, so we have their blood types, and then we have just like, some DNA properties, I guess, on whatever. And this is an old type of test too. This is not a PCR test.
Can't even read it, honestly. It's up on the screen. No idea what it says.
He thinks there's something that can be done with this, or she does, or he does, or Lane does. I don't understand. I really don't. But and then so he says pages 19 to 21 include the personal medical records of Mr. Lane, Congresswoman Boebert, and Congresswoman Boebert's mother. So that's 19 to 21 is, and this is very hard to read, it's just the form she filled out when they were doing the test, and there's nothing of consequence there. Like, I don't understand. Like, it includes the thing that's supposed to be the proof of them taking the tests. There's no actual medical information there. So yeah, so outside of that, the stuff that I had intended to redact that I did not, because as you can see, the photocopy quality is shitty and makes it easy to miss stuff. This just made me more confused. Because I think the big question you and I both have is, why now? What changed? Were they doing the test now? Why is he suddenly concerned about this being on the internet when, I mean, he knew about the article. I emailed him at the time, didn't get a response, but like people have been tweeting that article at her like every day for 2 years, which, by the way, she sucks. Please don't tweet that at her and make light of her not knowing who her biological dad
Right.
is.
I think this story obviously was newsworthy, but to use it when there's so much actual legitimate things to knock her, because this is a story that is telling, I think, in terms of how the system failed in this weird fraud that went on.
Yes.
And then on top of that, I think her upbringing is certainly relevant to sort of understand maybe where she's coming from.
And she had lied. I forget what, like, there was some official form where she claimed to be multiracial, like, that she lied on too. So there's other stuff there, but the main thing is like.
But I think going after her for this is in bad form, people. If anyone does that, there's so many legitimate things to knock her for. But this now, I guess, other than those weird, bizarre sort of like side questions, this closes that saga for Stan Lane, at least. Stan Lane is not Lauren Boebert's father. The Boeberts need to continue their search for that, I guess. And Lauren Boebert's team need to, I guess, figure out how DNA works, because they seem to be very confused based on those emails to you.
So the thing I'm trying to figure out is, like, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? I mean, probably not. But, like, why now? Because here's the other thing, too. To me, if you're in that situation, yeah, it sucks to be bit dragged back into it. If you find out all these years later that the lab tech, the phlebotomist, did this and did what she did with the switching, and probably a lot of other cases we don't know about. None have ever been reported, by the way. Like, they believe she did it a lot, but she never admitted to any. Other than I forget if she even admitted to the one she got convicted of, but she didn't admit to any others. If you know you didn't pay her off to switch the samples, why not just be like, oh God, I'm sorry that you have to have that doubt. I will do the updated test so we can get this over with. Like, to me, that's just the decent thing to do. And he wouldn't do it. Which, why would you not do that unless you didn't know? And the only way you wouldn't know is if you did pay her to switch the sample. Am I saying he did? No. Do I certainly think it's possible? Yes. Because, I feel like that's just common sense, right?
Right.
My theory, because it's the only thing I can think of that makes a lick of sense. Timeline feels like it has to be connected to the divorce and everything around it. Just because, why else now? I mean, and again, this is just me completely spitballing. I'm curious what you think. Could it maybe be like she was told to try to finally get it done as an estate planning thing with the divorce going on? And maybe, because I figure if she had not reached out since she's become famous and rich-ish, I feel like maybe that could have changed something for him, because he would know it's not a shakedown now in a way that maybe he wouldn't have before. So that's the only thing I can think of, but that's just a guess, and I don't know if that even makes sense. But right? Like, can you think of anything else, though, that explains this?
No, it's just, I don't know.
And the fact that it's while the divorce and stuff is going on, I feel like there's got to be something to that. Maybe my guess is completely wrong. The timing feels like it has to be related. But yeah, I mean, as far as he's concerned, the chapter's closed. I mean, again, I feel bad for younger Lauren Boebert, at least. And this explains a lot, again, because, like, I hope it probably won't, but I hope it leads to reevaluating some other stuff, because, like,
let's not go there. Let's.
I said I hope. I don't think she
let's
will.
not.
But
Let's
think,
not
I
give.
hope.
Let's not. I think we've.
But it's like what's her face? I'm forgetting her name all of a sudden. Virginia Roberts. With, you know, as far as, like, look, yes, if you've been trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein, I kind of get how you got into QAnon. You know, like, I wouldn't say it's acceptable, but you certainly understand Lauren Boebert and her mom being into all this conspiracy shit after what they felt like had been their situation, and to some degree still was, for the past however many decades, with thinking he's the father, but being told DNA said he wasn't, and all that. And then learning about the thing they should have been told about in, like, 1993 and didn't find out for 15 years. Right. You know, I certainly get how that could push you in a certain direction.
Yeah, no, I think it does definitely tell you a lot about someone's trajectory. I just don't think any of this will be a learning experience.
Probably not. No.
Right.
So I guess that's it as far as Boebert. Unless you have any super chats or anything, but I doubt it.
No, that's that people really like this story, because I think it hits multiple different areas that I think is just interesting. Like, especially being that you walk us through. I mean, you basically walked everyone through, like, your reporting, the way you reported this out and found out information step by step, which I think people really enjoy. The last time I did something like that, people in the chat really enjoyed it. So I think people like knowing how this stuff is uncovered and put out there, and how it gets to the point it does get to. But yeah, Lauren Boebert, Stan Lane is not Lauren Boebert's father, folks.
No.
Which is disappointing, because it would have been fun to. It would have been if that was confirmed, there'd been a lot more for this show to do with it.
Yeah.
I think that's the end of this show, talking about Lauren Boebert.
Especially because it's not like there's no potential resemblance. Like, especially if you see the photos of her when she had the blonde hair, like, you can see it. It doesn't mean they're related, but it's like it certainly looked plausible.
It was definitely possible, right? So
yeah.
What should we get to next? Should we talk about I think we probably might have to hold off on the Vince coming back story, because that's really a whole episode. That's really a whole episode. We should save that for. So let's actually segue into this news that just happened today with the PGA Tour basically being acquired by the Saudi. What is it? What is the fund called there?
Sovereign Investment Fund.
Right, which is basically the Saudi family buying up a U.S. American sports institution in order to be able to launder their name to the to the U.S.
Well, I mean, we should get to the specifics real quick. It's officially the Saudi government-owned LIV Golf is merging with the PGA. Is officially what it is, but the only investor in LIV Golf is Sovereign Investment Fund.
Right.
Or public investment fund, or sovereign wealth fund. There's like a bunch of interconnected things. It's all the same thing. It's the Saudi royal family and the Saudi government. So I have not looked too deep into this today. So you might even know more than me. But yeah, for those who don't know, LIV Golf was probably the biggest scale attempt that the Saudis have made with their whole sports washing campaign. They offered insane sums of money to the top professional golfers with the idea of starting up their own league and figuring, okay, we can use this, it's an international sport, blah, blah, blah. They were not able to find anyone who would do a formal TV deal. I think eventually they ended up buying time to air tournaments on the CW was what happened.
Right, I remember that. I think that's right.
And, when there was the talk that the Saudis were looking to buy WWE, that was a big topic of conversation. Like, if they did, who would actually want to do business with them? That was a big question.
Right, and the WWE didn't end up. I guess we'll touch upon it for a second here. WWE didn't end up doing anything with the Saudi family. I wonder what was about that connection.
I mean, there was an offer. I mean, there's enough information in the public filings to indicate there was an offer.
But we know that they have no problem partnering with them because they do the special event. What is it? Twice a year now?
Twice a year, they get paid about $50 million each.
They get paid $100 million a year for 2 events. That's more than they make for WrestleMania. And you could just take one of those events, $50 million. That's more than they make for WrestleMania.
I mean, it's like 2 to 3 WrestleManias.
It's insane. So they obviously have no problem accepting the blood money.
Right.
I think my take is, and I'm sure this is the take of many people. I don't think it's a unique take, but this is what I think. Vince wanted to work with someone who would let him retain control, and there wasn't that guarantee with the Saudi family.
So yes and no. Everyone believes that. I mean, Brandon Ross, who's an analyst with Lightshed Partners, he had always picked Endeavor as the leading contender for WWE to buy them, which turns out to be this merger of their own, because they would let Vince stay in charge. According to the interviews with Ari Emanuel and the public filings, and whatever you want to say about WWE, especially after the Vince stuff, but even before, they've always seemed very, very careful about ever, lying or anything in their SEC filings, at least knowingly. The people that would be putting them together for them. It says Vince was willing to do the deal without being on, still working there, but Ari Emanuel wanted him. And they were willing to give WWE a bigger percentage in the new company if Vince stayed on board with a new contract and stuff.
It's funny because it's like, man, teaming with the UFC and their parent company Endeavor is a bad case scenario. But somehow that deal stopped the worst case scenario. So it's like, it's not really a win, but it sort of is.
Right. So back to LIV Golf, though, now we get this whole thing where it's like the PGA had gone hard publicly about like the lacking morals of the golfers who took the LIV deals, bringing up 9/11 and everything. And now they merged with them. And it's so weird. Like, again, I have not had the time to look into this today, so I don't know what's been reported as far as financials or anything yet. But this, it also makes you wonder though, once existing TV deals are up and stuff, does this kill the PGA? Because I gotta think, because the Saudis probably would have made the best financial offer for WWE. I gotta think the reason WWE didn't take that deal is it became clear that partners would not continue working with them past current contracts. Because it was so much money, they would have left Vince in control. They probably wouldn't have even wanted any of their people directly involved beyond whatever, propaganda they're already doing. So what is it that the PGA decided to take a deal that Vince McMahon would not?
Right. It's pretty stunning to think that they're, exactly what you said, like Vince McMahon, like the last of the big carnies was even like, I'm not doing this.
Multi-time accused rapist, everything.
It's really incredible that, and I wonder, listen, I'm no golf person. I don't care about golf.
No.
If this kills golf, that'd be great, because I think golf is easily one of the more right-wing sports in terms of fan base and everything. It's clearly a wealthy person's sport as well. There's nothing redeeming about golf to me. Yet, at the same time, if this doesn't kill golf, then it helps, like I said earlier, launder the Saudi family's name and bring good press to them. I mean, it's really incredible that the 9/11 stuff, the Jamal Khashoggi assassination, all this stuff just doesn't seem to affect these people who would be the first to criticize others about this stuff. Like, you could just imagine hearing these people talk about go after like a low level like comedian if they made a 9/11 joke. Yet here are these guys actually going into business with the Saudis. It's stunning.
Yeah, I just don't see the ups. Like, I mean, I don't know how the PGA ownership works. I mean, again, I am not like even by the standards of the degrees to which I follow stick and ball sports, which is not as much as I'd like day to day. Like, I don't really know anything about golf, so like I don't know even who this is enriching exactly, but it just seems like a bad idea, just straight up. And oh, weird side note to all this. Do you remember who the most prominent business to give back the biggest Saudi investment after Khashoggi was?
Who?
Endeavor.
Mm.
Yeah, Ari Emanuel. They had a $400 million investment they gave back.
Interesting.
So, like, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world.
So even the UFC's got. I did not know that. That's actually pretty impressive. I respect that.
Yeah.
That's. Do you think they would? Do you think it was just because of how timely it all was? Like, do you think they would pass on that money now, being that it's been so many years removed and it now no longer matters if you go into business with the Saudis?
I don't know, because it's not like anyone else made that kind of an extravagant step.
Yeah, I mean, that I didn't know that actually, and I'm actually glad you mentioned that because maybe I'm not feeling so concerned about certain aspects. I mean, the aspect of how they treat their workers is still going to be horrible.
I mean, there are issues with how UFC treats people who work for them, but also UFC, of course, has had their various deals with United Arab Emirates, which have included using slave labor to build pop-up venues for UFC events.
Right.
So there is that. Yeah, it's just weird. I mean, the whole thing. It's also just frustrating because, if people haven't listened, I guess maybe most people listening to this haven't, but if they want to get a really good look at like the current state of the WWE Saudi deal, they should look up, probably easiest to find it here on YouTube, on Post Wrestling's channel. John Pollock and Brandon Thurston did an interview with Kareem Zidane from Bloody Elbow and, freelances for a bunch of places, Guardian, etc., talking about the Saudi shows and sports washing and stuff, and how just the attrition and how the shows have just become just another show almost. That's part of sports washing. It is normalizing all this stuff. Although Kareem says he doesn't like using the term sports washing anymore. I forget what he said he prefers. But still, it's just about normalization. It's not just, like how that first WWE Saudi show was, or is this ridiculous, shiny infomercial of like, oh, look at how beautiful all the beaches here in Jeddah are. And let's bring back Sean Davari to do this weird Sunni Shia angle that we're not calling a Sunni Shia angle. It doesn't have to be that extreme to still be that. I mean, look at how, there are women on the shows now, which there hadn't been previously, but they have to comply with local customs. And, Jeddah is more quote unquote progressive than other parts of Saudi Arabia. And I forget if they've had any of the women wrestle in Riyadh yet, but they wear. So, okay. initially when they had the women wrestle on the Saudi shows, they were wearing full bodysuits, but also T-shirts over them. Now they're just allowed to wear bodysuits, and at least they're letting them wear custom bodysuits, so at least it's fashionable. Like, doesn't look as ridiculous as it did before. But it's so weird that you have these people, like, and I'm trying not to get too deep into, I'm not knocking anyone's religion or whatever, but I don't get how you can be so concerned about modesty, but be okay with Trish Stratus and these other women being out there in skin tight catsuits. Like, it's the type of thing where, I mean, the way other Jews might look at Hasidic Jews who will try to do end runs around the Sabbath. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, at that point, why are you trying to do an end run around God kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Right.
Are you not? I mean, you're familiar with the concept of the Shabbos goys, but like, these aren't as common, but like the Rube Goldberg machines that some Hasidic families have, so they can do certain things without actually being responsible for using electricity and stuff.
Right.
And it's like, it's such a loop. Like, when you get to the degree of you're doing the loopholes, so it's like, oh, we're not actually seeing the skin on their arms, but but they're wearing the most form-fitting outfit possible. It's like, what are we doing here? So it's a weird thing to see in action. But even then, it's like, you are normalizing the more repressive culture by doing that too, by just treating it like it's a regular thing that's not out of step with the other WWE shows. I mean, the only one who's done it and not looked out of place was Becky Lynch on the last show, because she wore a modified version of something she had worn, like, stuff inspired by previously, which is the Bruce Lee Game of Death suit. The yellow suit with the black stripes, like Uma Thurman wore in Kill Bill as well. That looks like something she should wear regularly. It looked cool. But it's just all this, it gets normalized. Again, these are shows where I think still single women are not allowed to go by on their own without a male guardian too. So that's all mixed into it. But it's not just in your face propaganda that there has to be concerns about, is the point I was getting at, and got to way too circularly. It's just normalizing every little thing as well about a repressive regime.
Sounds great.
And obviously,
I like the term sports washing. I mean, if someone who doesn't would like to explain why it's a bad one, I'm all ears. But I mean, it's exactly what it is: using sports to, basically redefine your image to the public without actually addressing the actual issues with whatever it is. In this case, the Saudi families. Many discretions, if to put it lightly.
Yeah,
I guess.
and by the way, real quick, just we talked about Khashoggi in passing, and it feels weird just to how that's almost forgotten now, except for the anniversary. It seems like, where you might see like family members, or usually it's what's her name? Who was his editor at Washington Post? Karen Attiah, right? Like, she'll usually tweet something, but it feels like it's mostly forgotten. Something I feel like always needs to be stressed too. Not that it would justify it the other way, obviously. It's not like Jamal Khashoggi was a particularly harsh critic.
Right. Right.
Like, it was that he was a Saudi expat who had connections to the previous regime that really rankled MBS. That was the issue. But I feel like it speaks to the whole thing more, that it's like, he was not a threat to them in any way. He was an annoyance, and they decided to extraordinarily rendition him back into their sovereign land and murder and dismember him.
Yeah.
And
oh boy.
Real quick, I want to make the distinction too. I know your listeners would understand this, but I want to mention it. there will always be the comparisons, a lot of time in bad faith, a lot of the time from the Saudi troll farms, sometimes from other people, but still, like, America does plenty of bad things. They've done shows in China, wherever. It's one thing to do shows in a country, it's another to do shows for and with a country.
Right. Yes. Like, I'm not saying the people of these countries are not responsible for what their governments do.
Right.
In this case, this is the only situation that I know of where, like, these companies are literally going into business specifically with the ruling party or regime or government of a specific nation, and that's with the Saudis.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like when, like, a band comes touring here, they're doing it in partnership with, like, the Joe Biden administration or the Donald Trump administration. No.
Right. Now, if AEW were to start running military recruitment ads like WWE used to, yes, I feel like to be consistent, you would need to criticize that pretty harshly.
Right.
If you were, it's not the same.
I do think it's something to criticize, but it's definitely not the same thing either.
It's not the same thing, but it's at least in the same universe. In at least vaguely, but like, there's nothing that comes close. But just running a show in an oppressive country, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, honestly, running the show in cooperation with the oppressive government isn't even what we're talking about, because there's probably some degree to which they needed to be working with the Saudi government for the previous shows in the country before the partnership. But they were not propaganda shows that they were being paid by the government for. There's different levels to this. If you want to run a show in a country for those fans, and you may need to, it's not like the Saudi government needs money, so it's more of an approval thing. But, like, I get it to a point. Like, do I want them to deal with them? No, but it's not the same thing. The issue is, and has always been, and especially with WWE, because it's not like anyone else took that specific deal, was actually doing outright propaganda, which the only company that even came close, and even then we don't know the specifics, was American media, National Enquirer, etc., who had put out that weird, like, glossy Saudi government magazine a few years ago. Like, that's the only thing that comes close to the WWE deal. That's why the WWE deal specifically got so much criticism compared to other companies doing business with the Saudi government.
Right. Oh, David. I do think it's the interesting thing is that WWE did not decide to sell to the Saudis, so they are a step above professional golf in that sense.
A little.
However, a little. And they did merge with a company that, until I did not know this, and I think it's great they did this, that did actually give back hundreds of millions of dollars to avoid any ties with the Saudi fund, which I think is great too.
Yes.
However, they're still doing shows, and they're still taking lots of money. And it's in partnership with the Saudi fund, and it's specifically, anyone who's watched these special events, they can see that it's not just like, oh, WWE goes there to provide a live show for fans, the Saudi fans, which would be great if that's all it was. I don't mind them going to any country and performing for people who've, been clamoring to see their favorite wrestlers. That's great. But if you watch the show, like, there is wall-to-wall, like, hype of Saudi Arabia, like, to the point where it almost comes off like straight up like a government, like, advertising.
This last show, it is, yes. This last show, and I think some of the stuff leading up to it, would constantly, like, billboard the, like, Jeddah, like, tourism logo. Now, they didn't go as heavy-handed into the beautiful beaches and blah, 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 as much as they did at the beginning. But, yeah, it's still there, and it's still constant. At the press conference a day or two earlier, I think this time it was Triple H actually. I didn't watch it myself. I'm going by what I heard. I believe this time Triple H actually invited the or maybe it wasn't Triple H. Maybe it was the other Saudi government guy who runs the General Entertainment Authority. Someone started up a MBS chant among the crowd, which had occurred more spontaneously at the previous press conference 6 months earlier. But oh, I should mention, by the way, with the golf stuff, I did forget this. The merger comes out of back and forth antitrust lawsuits and stuff. And this is going to end all the lawsuits. So there is that. I'm not saying it justifies it, but it's important to know that that's part of what's going on.
So wait, say that again?
LIV had sued PGA. I forget if they countersued or anything. I think there was some kind of countersuit, but I forget exactly what, because I don't know if they could be suing them for antitrust. And the merger is going to end all of the pending litigation.
Ah. So there was an added extra here.
Right. And we have no terms yet. Reading the CNBC article, it says they're prepared to invest billions of new capital into the new entity. I mean, it's not a public company either. You know, so who knows how many details we even get out of it. You know, they're not publicly traded, PGAs. Right. So, you know, it'll need the approval of their board and their commissioner. But it's just weird. I mean, I think the fact that it's golf is kind of interesting too, in almost a weird, insidious way. Because, how do I put this? You're not aiming necessarily at Joe Public. The average person is not watching golf. Rich people watch golf. It's why golf stays on TV. It's not like a lot of people watch it. It's just the demographics are extremely well-to-do.
Right. So those ads, that advertising space is worth a lot based on who watches, not how many watch.
Right. So now also, this deal completely changes the math there, because now you're buying it on the Saudi government's propaganda league.
Well, will it matter for those people? I mean, we've already seen it doesn't matter that, you know, last year they're talking shit about how they wouldn't dare to do such a thing as work with the Saudi family, the royal family, and here they are a year later partnering with them.
Right. I mean, it's also, but what I was getting at too is that it's like they're kind of trying to reach, you know, more upper class Americans basically with this, which is interesting. I mean, I don't know if that's their deliberate strategy as much as it's the deal they could get done. But that's the net effect. You know, this is not going to have the same cultural impact that, I mean, the others are team systems, so it's not like you could just buy those in the first place. You know? So it's like, I mean, it's not like there's a lot they could, that's the other thing too. There's not a lot they could buy that's really a major sports league or something like it, right? Like, you could buy something like WWE, UFC, Pro Bull Riding, one of the major boxing companies, something like that. You can't buy the NBA. You can't buy the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NHL. So you they got in there in a weird way anyway. And it's also, you can't, there's so many more players and stuff to that you couldn't just start a competitor as easily with the other stick and ball sports. So like, it makes sense in that sense that they went with golf, but it's going to have a lower societal impact than just about anything else they could have attempted.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I didn't consider that they couldn't. It's the one for them to buy. Like, that's it. You know, the WWE, of course, but they lost that one.
Yeah.
What was the other? I feel like there was one more thing we wanted to talk
about. Did you maybe just give a brief Wuertz update?
Right. Okay. So let's hit this, because the Vince stuff will take up a whole episode and this won't. So we did touch upon the Vince thing, but we'll get more into him coming back on another episode. But you have an update on Drake Wuertz, who people might remember as the WWE referee who was dabbling into QAnon until he was finally let go. And then he became a regular at school board meetings where in Florida? Seminole County?
Well, he had already done that, started doing that, and I'm trying to remember if it was Seminole County School Board, if it was Seminole County Board of Commissioners. I think it was Board of Commissioners. I may be wrong. I could find the tweet. I was on here. You played the clip on the show because it went, and had me on because it went semi-viral. So there was one time he had skipped work to go to a meeting.
Like when he was working for WWE?
I believe he skipped an NXT taping, didn't he?
I think you're right. I recall that being, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the next one, wearing his WWE NXT polo.
Oh, right. Yes,
he
showed
zoomed in, yelling and almost on the verge of tears, and it got reported quickly that like he was so loud that other people heard him in other rooms and were like, what the fuck?
While he was zooming from a WWE event.
Yes, from an NXT TV taping. Yes. So he eventually got fired. Other stuff came out. He may have called a black wrestler boy when getting angry at him.
Well, it would track for someone with those politics.
Yes, the wrestler who accused him, he said he didn't remember exactly what it was, but the way he put it was something to the effect of like, he either said boy or something else that would have triggered me. Like, if he did not use the word boy, he used something that was a clear, not like at the 100% undeniable level of epithet like the N-word would be, but still something that was clearly a racial epithet that would set him off. So there was that. It had come out, I think, I forget if it was right before or right after he got fired, but it came out he'd been giving out Proud Boys literature over WrestleMania weekend. Just a lot of shit. And he ended up trying to run for the Florida State House very unsuccessfully. He transitioned into sales for a construction company that was very like evangelically oriented. And I don't know what happened there, because he was trying to get wrestling bookings on the side again, but he made it clear he would not go back to what has previously been like his specialty was best known for, which was deathmatch wrestling. The slice and dice, barbed wire, broken glass kind of stuff. He must have lost that construction job because he started doing it again. And because of who he's become, most places wouldn't book him except for, oh yeah, I don't think you knew this part, the revived version of Rob Black's XPW.
I had heard about it. For people who don't know, this is like a deathmatch wrestling company that was known for being run by a really bad guy.
Yes, so Rob Black, it's twofold with him. On one hand, he is someone that was very unjustly persecuted by the government. Ran the Extreme Associates porn studio, which was, put out some gross and fucked up stuff, but still nothing that would not be illegal or not constitutionally protected to any sane person.
Right.
You could dislike it, but if it's consensual adults, it's like, whatever. The Ashcroft GOJ prosecuted him, and it was fucked up, and they shouldn't have done that. On the other hand, he's been credibly accused of hiring goons to cut off a wrestler's thumb and try to cut off his genitalia, which thankfully they did not. Just all sorts of shit. He had disappeared for a while. Now he lives in Rochester and has a hamburger place. I don't know why. and he restarted XPW like a year or so ago. And he seems to really like booking people he considers canceled. There's one wrestler whose wife accused him of domestic violence that basically everyone else stopped using, that he loves using. He books Tessa Blanchard, who appears to have genuinely apologized for the incident where she called a black wrestler the N-word and spit at her.
Didn't really have a choice. Yeah.
I mean, and the other wrestler, Rosa Negra, she accepted the apology, took a picture with her, seems to think it's sincere, but no one's booking her except for Rob Black right now. And I mean, there's more I'm forgetting. If you saw a video recently where a wrestler had his trunks pulled down and had a syringe stuck through his penis, that was XPW.
I did not know about that one. Well, we can move on from that one. Jeez.
Yes, I mean, also where the wrestler who was accused of domestic violence also caught fire recently and had trouble putting it out. Just all sorts of shenanigans. I forget where they run in Los Angeles. They also run in Newark at a Quinceanera Hall. But anyway.
So back to Drake Wuertz.
Yes, noted evangelical Christian Drake Wuertz is wrestling here. And he was badly injured. I think he broke his back recently.
Ooh.
And has set up crowdfunding and stuff. And I hope he gets better. I would not wish that on anyone. But it's a weird situation. I mean, there's a guy.
Is he still doing the question is he still doing his school board meeting QAnon conspiracy theory stuff?
So I had not been keeping up with it for quite a while as far as the school board meetings. There was one tonight. I was told he and his wife had been around some at recent ones.
And we need to be clear here. The two, they don't have kids, correct?
No, they do, but they homeschool all of them.
So the kids are not even in the schools.
No.
Unbelievable.
I was told to keep an eye on tonight's meeting where there was some issue with a district or a high school in one of the districts in Seminole County where there had been like a glossary of LGBTQ terms in the yearbook, and two parents complained and demanded refunds, and now it's turned into a whole thing because Florida. And at least from what I saw, it was mainly queer kids, queer parents, parents of queer kids, allies, etc. speaking, which is a welcome change from when I had watched these previously. But it's still just depressing. There was a woman who said that they, them comes from Satan. And like she didn't mean it in a figurative sense. She tried to give some kind of literal backstory. But anyway, that's where things are with Drake now. And like, you have to understand though too, like, there are people who tried to stay friends with him by trying to talk about anything else that ended their friendships with him because he would always steer it back to that, all of the politics and QAnon shit and his extreme anti-abortion stuff and all that. And they just couldn't talk to him anymore. And he would get like weird in how he was talking about it in a way that was protected on maybe them and their families. He became toxic to talk to, even if you wanted to try to talk about anything else. Because the thing everyone always said was, if you don't talk to him about this stuff, he's the same guy that he always was. But like, I mean, I won't say who. There was a wrestler who did stay friendly with him that told me they kind of went back on that when they found out from stuff I had posted about the degree to which his anti-abortion stuff goes, by which I mean stuff like planning specifically to protest on the sidewalk outside an abortion clinic on late-term procedure day.
Wait, what? Say that again?
He and his friends would specifically go to protest at an abortion clinic on the one day a week where they did late-term abortions, meaning that they specifically made a point of harassing women who were getting abortions on the day where it was statistically most likely by far to be women who were getting abortions for wanted planned pregnancies. Because late-term abortions, as people who would be listening to this know, are almost universally
They're rare to
for
begin with.
fetal abnormalities, etc.
Yes.
I mean, they're so rare, and I've tweeted this, I think, once before, and I don't think people get this. They're rare enough that there are so few doctors who know how to do it and are willing to do it that when George Tiller was still alive, I have a family member who worked with a woman who had to get a late-term abortion due to a fetal abnormality, and she had to fly from New York to Kansas because Tiller was the only person she could get an appointment with. That's how rare it is in the first place. So there's a lot of toxicity there beyond even just the quote-unquote average QAnon person or even anti-abortion activist or whatever. Like, it goes far with him. Now, I do not wish harm on him. I hope his injury heals and he's able to live a productive life. But there's just a lot with him, and there's a reason he's fallen out with a lot of people that goes beyond just being into QAnon.
Jeez, I mean, it's you know, I will say that, like, you know, pro wrestling has gotten, obviously, just with the talent in the you know, the generation they're in, increasingly more progressive every year, and continues to do so. And we've discussed many times before about how the surveys that have been done on the issue often find that the demographics of the WWE or pro wrestling fan base as a whole are easily the most left-leaning and diverse of any sort of of any sort of sports fan base.
Yes.
But you know, there's still a lot of, especially up at the very top with the older generations, still some very strong, I mean, the guy running the show, for example, in the biggest pro wrestling organization there is, are obviously right-wing and very conservative. And, you know, for this guy to be so far gone that they couldn't even deal with him, it's pretty bad. Like, this dude is lost. This dude's not just a right winger. Like, I don't even think he's I mean, he's well gone. He's full board conspiracy theory, QAnon gone.
There was, I'm trying to remember, there was some fairly extreme Republican I remember him calling a rhino, and I can't remember who the hell it was. But it was instructive of what you were just saying. I just can't remember who. But it sucks. I mean, the other thing, I guess, to close the loop with, and then we'll finish up, is, like, he was one of the most beloved people in wrestling. He genuinely was. Like, WWE has started after this recruiting more wrestlers to be referees than they had before. Some of it appears to be for diversity reasons. And that's not just based on the makeup. That's based on things that I've actually heard from within WWE. But when he got signed, it was like they did not have a place for him as a wrestler, but everyone loved him so much that they were like, let's make a spot for you as a referee. And he took it. And that's how well liked he was. People rooted for him so much in his sobriety, because he had a terrible, terrible, drug addiction. Had a meth problem and all that. And he was a guy people rooted for and loved. And it just makes it even sadder to see just what a 180 there's been.
Right. Yeah, I remember hearing about him back in the day. He was like a beloved indie talent. Yes. He was someone that people were really rooting for, like a guy who put in the blood, sweat, and tears that people were hoping that he would finally make it to one of the big promotions. And he never did as a wrestler, but he did as a referee. And people should know that when the WWE hires a referee like that, it's usually maybe someone they don't think is either too old to make it as a wrestler, or they don't think has the specific style of wrestling they're looking for, but they respect them in terms of the knowledge they could bring to the talent they work with.
Yes. And also, we should know, too, like, referees are on talent contracts. They're on the same contracts wrestlers are on. They're considered
Are they?
talent.
I didn't know that, because they treat them differently. I've always felt like they I knew they were independent contractors because they're not office employees, but I didn't know they were on the same type of deal as the wrestlers.
Yes, I think they're. I recall someone telling me that changed at some point, but because like
Because
with him,
they have these guys drive them around and corral certain wrestlers. Like, it's more than just a talent position.
well, some referees have other duties. It's
Right.
I believe it's in their capacity as referees they are talent.
Okay.
So like John Cohn, for example, who I don't think is actively refereeing anymore. If he is, it's not as much as before. He also has a fairly high position in the talent relations department, but that when he's doing both, it's a separate contract where he's an employee. And what the big coveted thing for referees was always, if you also get on the ring crew, even though you're still an independent contractor, they cover your road expenses. They cover your hotel and your rental car. So if you were a referee, you always wanted to get on the ring crew, and then all of a sudden your take-home pay is much higher. Like, it was just in the news today on his podcast, Mike Chioda, who is probably their longest tenured referee till he got let go, I think during the pandemic cuts a few years ago. I think he said he was making about $250,000 a year at the end, which was probably one of the reasons he got cut. But that was, taxes aside, that was pretty much all take home because he didn't have the same road expenses that the average talent would, because he would have been on ring crew and stuff. So yeah, they're talent. So I remember Pat Buck, who's now in AEW as a producer and part of the creative team and stuff. He did an interview years ago on Colt Cabana's podcast, Art of Wrestling, where at the time he was still very bitter about his original WWE experience and how he would get strung along and stuff. But when he talked about how at one point they told him there was an opening for a referee he could be earmarked for, the way he explained it was basically, well, look, you're still talent, you're still on the road, you're still one of the boys, and if you get on ring crew, your expenses are covered. Like, this isn't a bad outcome. Is it for everyone? No, but for a lot of wrestlers, it's it makes sense.
Right. Well, David, I would love to continue even diving deeper into the world of wrestling, and we're gonna have to do that another day. Yeah. Because I love these discussions, and people can tell by how long I go with you every time. But it is time for this episode to come to an end. It's great to have you back on because it's been a while. We used to, like I said, at least be the guaranteed David Bixenspan yearly appearance, oftentimes many more than once a year, but there was the guarantee of once a year with the WrestleMania special. But I feel like it's been longer than a year since you've been on in recent days.
I'd have to check. It's been a while, yes.
Yeah, so it's great to have you on. Thank you for running down the end of the Boebert Stan Lane saga.
Yes.
The horrendous Saudi family sports washing that they didn't successfully do with the WWE via an outright acquisition, but they do with their live events. Yes. But that they did successfully do with a merger, quote unquote, with PGA Tour. Which really, I mean, honestly, it looks, the way I've been reading it, it really sounds more like this merger is, yeah, the PGA Tour bigwigs get to hold their board seats and call some of the shots, but all the money is with the Saudi family who is running the show.
Right, it's a thinly veiled acquisition.
Right, yes, exactly. Basically so for those exact reasons we discussed. And the Drake Wuertz rundown of what's been going on there. Didn't get deep into the Vince McMahon coming back stuff.
And that really needs its own show. I mean, what? Maybe what we can do is next month do a show on the anniversary of him stepping down or something like that.
We got to do that. Yes, for sure. So David, thank you so much for joining me. David Bixenspan, everyone. Honestly, and I'm not just saying this because he's on the show. I think David Bixenspan covers pro wrestling unlike anyone else. He is not a dirt sheet writer, not with the wrestling news with a Z at the end. He covers wrestling as a legitimate reporter should, and there's not many people who cover wrestling full time like David Bixenspan does, who isn't working, like who isn't doing dirt sheet stuff. So David, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate your work as always. Where can people find you?
At excuse me, at David Bix on Twitter. You can find most of my stuff there. I mean, I don't have a link tree. I have a card because I set it up. I think I meant to have a link tree or something anyway. I did set up a link tree, I think. And then when there was the brief link tree ban on Twitter, I set up a card. And because I liked the formatting better, I stuck with that. So you can find my other stuff there. Like my podcast, my main thing is Between the Sheets. Me and Chris Elner look at how a week in wrestling in history was covered in the wrestling dirt sheets and the like at the time. So the show we just did is 2013, which is the most recent show we've done. We set a 10-year rule that we will not cover anything that's more recently than 10 years ago that week. So people can check that out. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Between the Sheets, where each month we do a deep dive episode on a single topic. Last month we did part 1 on World Wrestling All-Stars, the post WCW international touring promotion that tried to get going. We have part 2 on that this month. What were we doing before that? We did what did we do? Oh, we did the whole Ric Flair almost getting fired by WCW and getting sued thing the month before that. We did 4 parts on the 1992 WWF sexual misconduct and drug scandals from 1992. We did that last year. Lots of stuff about ECW and Paul Heyman if people are interested. So it's patreon.com/Between the Sheets. And, like I said, everything else you can find on my Twitter and linked there on the card. All that.
There you go. David Bixenspan, everyone. Thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure.
Have a great night.
You too.
Man, I can literally talk with David about wrestling for hours. I have to stop myself sometimes. We should actually really maybe get a podcast going every now and then. We should get a wrestling show going. I gotta talk with him about that. Oh, I have the Majority Report thing behind me. That's not the correct background for this show. There it is. There it is. All right, folks. Let's go to the second half of the show. But before we do that, patreon.com/Matt Binder. If you can support this show, my Patreon subscribers literally help this show not just grow, but exist. It helps my other show, Scam Economy, not just grow, but exist. It helps all the work I do on Majority Report and Leftist Mafia and everywhere else I write, record, video or audio. Anything I do is only possible thanks to my Patreon. My patrons, at patreon.com/Matt Binder. And, it was the beginning of the month this past weekend, and as every beginning of the month goes, Patreon charges people, and lo and behold, cards get declined, people have to cancel, financial difficulties. So we lost a chunk of people this month. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people in their exit surveys saying, their times are tough. They lost their job. They hope to come back soon. And we had a bunch of cards decline this month, more so than usual. So we are now at a lower than usual, I should say, Patreon subscriber count. So if you're one of those people who can't afford to do so, please don't. This is a call for people who can afford to do so and have been thinking about doing it maybe, or maybe never thought about doing it, but they have the money to do so, and they're like, you know what? I watch this show. I enjoy this show. Now's the time to do it. So patreon.com/Matt Binder. And let me see if there were anyone. Like I said, it was a tough week. Let's see who did subscribe this past week. We had a few people. Let's see. Julian D, Sebastian D, and Chargoon D. Wow, everyone with the last name D today, or at least last letter in their username D. Wow, look at that. Amazing. Thank you all so much for becoming Patreon subscribers at patreon.com/MattBinder. You can also support this show at youtube.com/MattBinder and dropping a super chat in the live stream feed. I will read all the super chats in the second half of the show. Can also drop a super thanks on any video that's already up there. If you want to leave a comment on one of those, that can be highlighted. What else? You can, twitch.tv/MattBinder. Follow me there. And if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, connect your Amazon account to your Twitch account. And you could drop a Twitch Prime subscription, which costs you nothing. It comes with your Amazon Prime subscription for free. But it forces Amazon to pay me. Not a ton, but a couple bucks. I'll take it. If you'd like me to take it, just go there and give me your Twitch Prime subscription. And I will read all of those people who signed up in the second half of the show too. Doomedcast.com for the podcast version of this show. Scameconomy.com for the podcast version of that show. Check that show out. We got a bunch of Scam Economy episodes coming out soon. Very excited for the upcoming Scam Economy episodes. Also, I mentioned a couple weeks ago a newsletter that is in the works. Yes, it's coming. I'll give you more information as that date comes closer. And I'm going to go to the second half of the show now, where you can call into this show via Skype at Doomed Live. Just go open your Skype, search Doomed Live, and I'll pop up, and you can call me there. Oh, follow me on Twitter at Matt Binder, Blue Sky Matt Binder, Mastodon Matt Binder, search Matt Binder, Instagram Matt Binder, search Matt Binder on most platforms. You'll find me. But now let's go to the second half of the show. Live stream viewers, just hold on tight. There'll be a brief break. The stream won't change. Same for Patreon subscribers. Hold on tight. You'll be able to access this. No problem at all. But for the free podcast version of this show listeners, this is where we say goodbye to you. And this is also where I say to you that we will see you all next time on Doomed.
Ecological collapse, corporate fascism, corporate journalism, police brutality, voter suppression, austerity economics, educate the masses, rampant homophobia,
We got our first caller.
What's up, Matt?
Hey,
You from Jamaica?
Dave from Jamaica. How are you doing, my friend? What are we going to talk about today? I don't think you are exactly what you claim you are. I would say you're a conservative. What makes you a liberal?
I'm pro-Green New Deal.
Are you? Yes, really? Absolutely. Really? I have watched the show. I've seen you completely come out and get really mad at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for some of the things in the Green New Deal.
You mean like free college for black people?
All right, folks, we are back. This is the second half of the show, the live stream call-in section of our show here. Looking forward to those calls at Skype, Doomed Live, just Skype Doomed Live, and I'll take your calls. There was a bunch of things I wanted to talk about today, but I don't know if I'm gonna have a chance to get to it with the usual amount of calls. I'm gonna have to start really finding time. I don't know where I'm gonna find all this time, but I need to really start doing videos, like standalone videos. Know what I mean? Because what's this? Also working on a piece, and Elon Musk, man, Christ. Let's see. All right, I'll read some super chats while the calls start to come in. Let's go to the super chats. Here we go. John Deere with a super chat. Only Binder could make me care about pro wrestling. Well, that's good. Miss Siren with a $20 super sticker. Wow. Thank you so much, Miss Siren. I appreciate that big time. And we got a Patreon subscriber in. Remember, you drop a Patreon subscription now, I'll shout you out. I will definitely shout you out now and next week's show too on the first half as well. Ryan, thank you so much for becoming a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/MattBinder. Let me pull you up on the feed here. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Alan calling from North Carolina.
Alan, hold on one second. I have the wrong thing. Here we go. Hey, Alan, what's up?
I just want to say that I really enjoyed the episode today. I didn't think that I thought that I was gonna call in and be like, well, I didn't really care about the episode, but I ended up really liking it. So
so you're not a wrestling fan, but you like the episode.
Well, I don't know if I'm anti-wrestling. I just think that it's not something that I've really paid any attention to since I was in, like, I don't know, elementary school. And so, like, it feels like I missed the train and now I don't know who any of the characters are. And I just feel like, I don't know, I'm like a comic book reader. So like, they're like sometimes there's like this thing where we're like fandoms where you're like, oh, I missed a train, and I'm like a completionist. So I feel like I have like this ravenous need to like consume every backstory and to know all the lore when I'm in a fandom. So like sometimes I just have to be like, I don't have the time to invest in other things.
No,
so
I hear that.
Know.
There's like stuff that like I'm interested in, but I don't really have. It's not really like I'm interested in to find out what people are talking about in that world, even if it's a hobby or an interest that doesn't necessarily speak directly to me. And like, I don't have time to, like a lot of video game culture. Like there's the video games I like, but I'm interested in, like I'm not a Zelda fan. I think the story is great, but I don't have the patience to play a single player, long form, adventure action puzzle game. So I enjoy like checking out the videos, seeing what people are saying about it, even though it's not my thing. Sort of like that.
Right. Yeah, except I don't really get into like the lore videos or anything like that, right? So I probably
really quick, can you scooch over a little bit to your left? Perfect. There we go. Much better.
Okay. Yeah, I was just where was I was just saying that like I'm probably even more distance from it than you probably are from like a Zelda game, because I don't even like tangentially watch content about wrestling. The closest I've probably gotten to wrestling content, I don't know, I watched that E-show Divas. I was probably like a pretty close follower of John Cena for a really long time. And then I have a lot of mutuals that like sometimes will tweet about wrestling. So that's probably as much as I get into wrestling. I'll be like, oh, this thing is going on. It's crazy how many people, it's kind of like, like soccer, right? Like nobody ever like conversationally talks about soccer, at least in my day-to-day life. But like when something big is happening in soccer, like the timeline is just full of people that you wouldn't even expect to be talking about soccer So that's how it kind of is with like
Right.
WWE, where like how
Right.
these people that I don't follow
Well-
for anything that has anything to do with WWE content, but they tweet about WWE stuff sometimes.
Well, I'm glad you liked the episode. That makes me very happy. So what
Well, yeah,
did you?
I find
what
the
did you? What,
business back
oh, go ahead.
part of the WWE stuff to be very interesting. Like the thing that's going on with Vince McMahon and like the tangential like stuff I get about that story that's going on with him. Not leaving like the WWE.
Well, he did leave
like-
actually, and then he came back.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess that's what I meant. But like it's kind of like but that, I mean, it's not exclusive to that industry, right? Like you have like that happens a lot in churches. You've had like mega churches, like you'll have like a church leader who'll have like a scandal, and then they'll step down to like deal with the scandal, and then they'll have like this they'll try to have like this resurgence after, because which makes more sense in like the church world, because like it's all about like redemption, but not so much in like the business liability, where you have like the business liability world. Like none of that exists in church because it's all tax exempt, right? But
right.
Like it reminded me when you guys were talking about it, it reminded me of like what happened with Hillsong and Brian Houston. I don't know if you're aware of this, but like so like there was recently a documentary about it, but like the Hillsong is like, have you heard of Hillsong? It's like this really big mega church.
Yes, I have. That sounds
And
familiar.
it's not as big as it was, but at one point it was like really big. They baptized.
Is this the one that certain celebrities are part of?
Yeah, Carl. Yeah, like a bunch of celebrities are.
Is this the
like,
Justin Bieber one?
church. Yeah, the one that Justin Bieber was baptized.
And it's got ties to
so-
what's his face from Jurassic World as well, I think, right?
There was like a tangential, like people were like
Mario.
making associations to Chris Pratt about it, but like it became like this thing where like, oh, he doesn't go to that church, he goes to a different fascist church. But like it was like a whole thing, and now it's like a whole thing online. But my point was that their church was like, that church was like baked in scandal because it became popular in the US because of the Justin Bieber thing, and they had like this like cool like hip preacher Carl Lentz who became like this like celebrity. He went on all these talk shows, like he was like always like he was like really out like media like person, upfront media person, and then there was like this scandal with like his cheating, and then came out later that like the leader of the church, Brian Houston, had like this really shady past, and so he's like fake stepped down, and I guess he's like back at the top of the church now or whatever, right? So that's why it reminded me of that. And it's just sort of like this weird thing where it's kind of like this like Trumpian thing, right? Where like these like this like idea about like the fakeness of like cancel culture, and like how there's like this, they complain about being canceled, but it's not really like they like persist through it, and they're never really like what's his name that abuses his wife, divorce, gun holsters show on
Steven Crowder.
Steven Crowder, yes.
I gotta say, there's a lot of from that early description, there's a lot of options.
I feel like gun holsters really ticks it off. You're like, yes.
Yes, when you said that, I knew who you were talking about. But every descriptor before that fit a large, a vast profile of people.
Like even Steven Crowder had this super public, even Republican backlash against his womanizing that's come out. I doubt that I have a material effect on his a material effect on his popularity, just because it kind of fits in to his worldview in a way. Like these people, like there's a corporate monetization factor that I think even now we're kind of seeing with like Target and that kind of thing. Like they're get like that Christo-fascist sort of mentality is sort of making real grounds. I don't think that they've, I try to stay optimistic and not say that they won or that they made like real strides, but it feels very much like they're becoming pervasive into our culture in a way that they haven't really since, I would say, probably gay marriage was legalized. Like I think when they lost the gay marriage battle, it was a real blow to their potency in pop culture. I think that they waged like this really public war against gay people through like the Westboro Baptist Church and all that stuff, and then I feel like they kind of lost, and well, they did lose in a way, that battle, at like the highest level, and I think that the now we're getting back to, I think, the place where we were right before gay marriage was legalized, right? Where like you could very well see, like a Westboro Baptist church kind of rising again. So I think that it's like Brian Houston, like to bring it to remind of the point about Hillsong, the celebrity pastor guy, people were really upfront with him about challenging those like celebrity churches on things like gay marriage, right? And I just don't, it would be interesting to see how that conversation would happen in today's light, or whether or not those same things would sort of be brought up. It's I mean, we're on the show's called Doom, but like it seems like there's like they were kind of, somber on the majority report today with the Supreme Court decisions, right? And so
Which ones were they talking about today?
they were talking about the union decision.
Right.
I was kind of late catching the show, so they might have talked about a lot of other stuff. There was also I don't know, did you see that federal the blocking of the trans law in Florida?
I did. That's good news.
Today? That was really good news. But then, like,
people don't know, a federal judge blocked some of the parts of the transgender care for the gender affirming care. DeSantis's administration and DeSantis himself tried to block any sort of gender affirming care for minors in Florida, and a federal judge said can't do that on some points of the law. It's what we're currently seeing, and we say, I feel like this is repeating myself over and over again here, but it needs to be said because it keeps happening. We are seeing some really horrible blowback against the LGBTQ community, especially transgender people, especially transgender kids. And it's really bad. It's horrible. And any sort of good news we can pull out of this, I'm taking. And this is certainly good news because people were leaving Florida. Like families with trans kids were leaving Florida. I mean, not everyone could afford to do that. It's easier said than done, and people who can usually have the means to do it. But
there are some organizations. I want to say for anybody that is trying to get out of out of the South right now. There are organizations that are working to get people out of the South. So I would look into that. But
Right.
it's
I mean, I was
it
I was I
is
was also I was reading today about how it's sort of undercovered just how much in Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs's win over Kari Lake was. I
yeah, I
was
did
reading
see
this
that.
article
Yeah.
about all these laws the Republican majority has been trying to pass, and she's just vetoing them. And I saw someone describe that if she did not win that race, Arizona would currently be Florida. With the sheer amount of laws restricting and banning rights in general, let alone specifically banning, rights when it comes to the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a sore subject for me personally, just because that's kind of how it was here in North Carolina until recently. But when that state house member flipped,
Right.
but
How's
it
that going? Is there a sustained campaign to get her out? Because she won on lies.
I don't think there is. I think that because of the setup of the government right now, there's not really any because they have the Supreme Court now, because they have a veto proof majority. There's not really a lot that could happen because she switched parties as well.
Oh no,
So
I mean
it's not like,
I'm talking about like a sustained effort for her to lose in the next election. Like I know there's probably nothing they could do.
like
now.
I don't think it's possible that she could win the next election, but also
Oh, because it's
with
her like
with,
she
with
wasn't an upset win as a Democrat. Like she's in a blue area.
yeah, she's in super blue area, so she
Okay,
she
wasn't
won
sure about
based
that.
on lies. Like she won by like I don't know, like 20 points or something like that, somewhere around 20 points, and she. But the issue is that because they have a veto proof majority and because they have the Supreme Court, they could just I don't know somehow gerrymander her into keeping that seat.
Mm.
So it's a I think the issue is that Democrats are really committed to playing by the rules, and the rules that Republicans set up and that they have no interest in following. I mean, it's kind of like the situation we're in at the federal level with the Supreme Court. Like they blocked Obama's picks, and then they shoehorned Amy Boebert in an almost comical way, But in the end, it doesn't really matter because there's nothing anyone can do about it, right? So it's like we just have to get creative, but it is pretty scary, honestly. I mean, to live, and I like living in North Carolina. But it is a pretty scary time. It's the thought of of what the place I call home could become, right? At within a couple years, like then we're talking about the majority report today that things are probably gonna get a lot worse before they get any better, and it is like pretty scary. I don't know, and there's just so much.
It's not gonna we are in weird times. Easiest to say. I think we're definitely in a sort of I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but we are in a specific time frame that it is eventually going to pass. Like if you look at these things, like if you look at the past decades, these things come in in spurts where we have These moments where, I mean, think about like, I'm trying to think of the range to go with, like 2012 to 2015. It really felt like things were progressing. And then, in let's say like 2020, it felt like things could be different too. We're in a bad time frame right now that eventually will pass, but a lot of people will get hurt, and there'll be a lot of long-lasting damage from it too.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know. It was kind of like that, there's just all these things going on, and it's like if you ignore it, you can kind of like be sort of apathetic about it for a while, but then like, I don't know, for somebody like me who's Black and queer in North Carolina, there is like a certain like impending doom. Like you see things like, it seems like there's like no safe place in the United States, right? You see things like, like they're still doing stop and frisk in New York, or like, like this crazy stuff that you would think that like, or like you see like Tim Scott on The View a couple days ago, like
I did not know he was on The View
talking about how like systemic racism doesn't exist because he's a Black senator. Like what? Like it's like this weird thing where like he's sitting there in front of Whoopi Goldberg and Sonny Hostin, and he's like talking about, and liberals, The View, however you want to say it. But I saw the clips, and then I had to go watch an extended clip because I was like, I just had to see like what the response to that would be at that table. I mean, and The View is sort of engineered in a way that it doesn't make it possible for there to be like any real backlash to their guests, because like they can kind of gerrymander, and then there's like commercials. So like it's because they're constrained into that, when we're doing an interview like that and you're constrained on time, it's really easy for Republicans to like do things that make them look really good, because it became like this thing where like he was able to get a lot of points out because they were in a position where they had to like ask him questions, and he could gerrymander with time and say a lot of nothing, and then they would have to go to break and cut because they have like, their show is so produced to where they have to have like these segments and they can only talk for certain periods of time, right? So I mean, you had like, Fox News running articles about how he left them speechless, and I mean, it obviously doesn't make sense when you watch the clip because they weren't speechless at all, but like I know it's like like people talk about how like we live in like these two different worlds where like, if you only, like if you Google the Tim Scott clip, like the news articles are saying that like he like came out looking good. So it's like, it's weird that like somebody could say systemic racism doesn't exist, and then our news media would just sort of not, I don't know, like it just I don't know.
Yeah, it's there's this weird belief that you need to just basically ignore basic reality in an effort to seem unbiased, and it's bullshit.
Right, like where the
It's
New York
bullshit.
Times is like coming out saying that like, oh, it's getting pretty scary for trans people out there. Like, I wonder who contributed to that very publicly, and then made very public statements about not doing anything about their own, like you had like the audacity of the New York Times to say something like that after, trans activists and just journalists in general made very public statements about like the New York Times role in the very like, you can draw a direct line between New York Times articles and what's happening at Target right now. You know what I mean? Like it's not anywhere near coded in any way. Like, so it seems like I don't know.
No, yeah, I hear you. I hear you, man. It's, yeah, I mean, we'll just continue covering it and helping where we could and
Yeah.
talking about it. I think that's the most important thing that we can do is make sure that there's pushback, right? I mean, I will always say that, you know, and I've brought this up before, the feeling of despair, and again, this is easier for me to say as someone who is not being directly targeted, but that feeling of despair in the early 2000s after 9/11, with the war on terror and the Islamophobia running rampant, and U.S. getting into wars where if you weren't, you know, haranguing the wars and the Bush administration, you were considered an enemy of the state to even people around you. That feeling of despair is, that specific feeling is still not here because we have communication tools thanks to the internet, community thanks to the internet, the ability to organize thanks to the internet. There's just an overall different feel to it, and you know it's easy to compare these eras and try to make it sound better. But I'm just saying, like, there's still hope, and we got the ability to actually like do something about it nowadays. That was a bit harder to do back in my day.
Yeah, I guess it's just, you know, even like it feels like, you know, because of what's going on in Target right now and because of some other stuff that's going on, something about what's happening at Target just feels very like a big loss. I think that
I mean, I would say this. We shouldn't really put too much hope in these. I mean, these companies obviously just do it for money
no,
anyway.
I don't mean it in a way that Target, like their specific, like, you know, support of the LGBT community means anything. I think that what I mean is that the backlash that they're getting and the way that the backlash is being covered makes me feel very pessimistic about how just any representation, the protections for representation in our society feel very slim and non-existent. Like I saw that the Human Rights Campaign, I think today, declared like a state of emergency or something like that, and you know, people were calling it unprecedented. And I think I think that there is something. There seems to be something very particularly fascist and visceral about the way that it's actually bearing out in our society right now, and that I don't think there seems to be a shift in the way, like a significant shift in the way that it's being covered by the media, as opposed to how things were going, the trajectory that I felt like we were going on. Like, it feels like they made a very significant gain in a very particular way, and I think in representation, like you know, we talk about, like, I would think about like something that, you know, is not really, like, on the face value, you would not really feel like it's important that Disney has what's going on with Disney in Florida, right? But I think that it has a material implication on the way that companies will respond and how, in the environment that will create for.
Right. You know, really quick, I want to say something about that, but really quick, let me thank $27 for the raid over on Twitch. Got a large Twitch audience right now, large for me at least. Thank you, 27.
I do subscribe on Twitch. I am a Twitch Prime member, so.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
that.
Actually,
I think I pay actually.
Look at that. Thank you. Thank you even more. So if you're new to the show, I'm talking to, you know, one of my listeners here, regular listeners, Alan, and this is where I take calls. This is part of the show where I take calls. You can call in it via Skype at Doomed Live. Just search Doomed Live. Right now we are talking about, you know, basically how we are in bad times right now with the attacks on the LGBTQ community from the right. And, you know, I think to your point, what you were saying, And if you're first time watching on Twitch, be sure to click that follow button too. By the way, $27 viewers. But I think to your point, I think the way I've sort of felt about it is that, listen, these corporations supporting LGBTQ folks during Pride Month, it's obviously for business purposes. However, that being said, there is something very weird this year specifically about how mindlessly or easily they were willing to just kowtow to these right-wing campaigns and just throw LGBTQ people under the bus.
Yeah, there is a certain thing that is alarming in the way that they were able to make a calculation that it was more politically expedient for them to kowtow to the right than to stand up for queer people. And I think that is a shift in the way that it was before, the political calculations they were making before. And I think that paints a bad picture for the environment that queer people are going to have to grow up in. Because I think that, as queer people, we were very optimistic about the environment that, and I think that when you see things like libs of TikTok is a good indication of this. It's like there seems to be a very visceral and strong campaign to make the environment very hostile for queer kids. And it seems that as though like there's not like anybody who's willing to say that there's not enough people on a corporate level, and it does make a difference. Like the images that queer kids see and how they see that reacted to in the media, and there was a progress in representation. I think that the right is right when they say that there is material impact of these books existing, these bathing suits existing, right? They say it's like it like makes you queer, which not really happens, but like what it does is it creates an environment where when you're a queer kid and you see that these things exist, it makes you feel more comfortable. And they don't want those queer kids to feel comfortable. They don't want those queer kids to feel like there's any place to not conform to their, whatever Christo-fascist ideology they're peddling at the moment, right? Because it changes over time, even though they try to act like it doesn't. And like you have things like Matt Walsh wearing skinny jeans while he's out fishing, right? And this like that wouldn't have ever happened 5 or 6 years ago, right? And so like they're in their own progression. You can see that the definition of what is manly has changed, what is womanly has changed, and they need kids to conform to that, because they know that if there aren't strict things that make these kids conform, that's a losing game, right? That like it's a lot harder to close that box once it's been opened than it is to make sure that box never opened in the first place, right? So like as a queer kid, seeing that there is acceptance out there, that there are things that exist that where you will be loved and accepted, and there is a way to get out of these environments, these really hostile environments. It's there that was a positive thing that we had been striving towards, and that had been helping, and which is why we see that this large increase in queer people probably since the HIV epidemic, like there's been like a explosion that there probably has never been since before then, right? Because I think that they were able to beat back that acceptance in the wake of in the 80s, in the wake of they were able to use HIV as a way to discriminate against queer people very openly, and it was almost accepted. And then so they're using it in with trans kids to sort of get back to that place, right? They're finding that foothold to disguise legislation, and we know as leftists and as that we know that it doesn't really matter what the law says when you have and even if the law is not explicit, they will use the laws to discriminate against minorities in a way that is not explicitly stated in the laws. And I think that's why it's so scary what's happening in Florida and what they're able to the specifics of the laws that they're able to get passed when it comes to immigrants and Black people and queer people.
Right. Well, Alan, thank you so much for the call. This was a really great call. I really appreciate it. Hopefully there'll be more positive things to talk about in the near
and the
future.
love Leftist Mafia, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And tell Lance that I have updated my assessment. He does not look like Ron DeSantis. Oh, there's somebody else that I thought that I saw the other day, and I was like, oh, he kind of looks more like that person. Now I can't remember who it is. I'll
let him know.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
You too. I'll keep watching, so I'll be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. Always a pleasure. All right, we'll take a few more calls. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hey, it's Charlie from Washington. How you doing?
Hey, Charlie, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Turn my phone up here. Hey, mute that. Okay, I'm doing pretty good. I'm growing some of these white strawberries called hula berries. They're supposed to taste like pineapples. They haven't made any berries yet, but the plants look healthy as hell. So I've never been able to grow things in my life before, so I'm trying. I'm trying to do that now. I can't have a cat, so I'm going to be a plant mom.
There you go. So what would you like to talk about?
Well, first things first. You need to send Anne in the UK the Discord link and add your emotes. She told me to bug you.
Oh, I didn't. All right, I'm behind on a lot of things, so I'll have to get to it. I promise.
Yeah. And then I kind of want to talk about the DeSantis announcement thing, because a lot of people are talking about how he's he's unlikable and he's got a whiny voice. He's uncharismatic and stuff. But the whole time I was listening, I listened to a couple of people cover his announcement, and the whole time I'm listening to that, and I'm like, I know people this rhetoric will work on, like straight up. If they can't get, I don't think he can win in the primary, obviously, unless Trump drops dead. Basically, that's the only one that's going to stop him, because he's just, evil never dies. Bless you.
Thank you.
But whoever wins the Republican primary, I do not doubt for a second that the people Ron DeSantis is targeting, you see, they don't care about likable or nice or anything. The only thing they care about is hurting the people that they hate. And my big fear is that, even if Trump wins, he might start adopting some of DeSantis's worst ideas and rhetoric and whipping his base up into even, because he'll say anything that'll make him popular. And these guys are drooling idiots. There's no way they could win unless Biden does something stupid like throwing it on the 1 yard line instead of feeding the fucking beast. Like, he really seems like he wants to do that. So it's really more Biden's game to lose than anything else. And I'm still optimistic that he can beat him, but I just kind of want everybody to stay on their toes. You know what I mean? we got burned by that in 2016. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. It's just kind of a concern. I'm related to some of the people and a lot of people that I work with would absolutely vote for DeSantis if he was the option. Less because they like him and more because they hate Biden. Like today, I walked into
Yeah, that's not
the
good, obviously. That's one of the worries about DeSantis actually breaking through, right?
Yeah, so I mean, we should be prepared. I was I think it was Bo the Fifth Column I was watching was talking about it, but like it kind of looks basically like the Democrats are preparing to go for Trump v. Biden round 2, and like I said, off chance something happens and DeSantis is in there, well, I'm not so sure that they can beat him because like I said, they don't care about likability or good ideas or anything like that. They care about hurting people. So, but not to be a downer.
No, I hear you. Huh?
Like I said, we shouldn't worry too terribly much about it, but do take them seriously, stay on your toes, that kind of thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to see how this goes. I mean, it's early days. It's gonna be a brutal Republican primary. You could already tell. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm let them tear each other apart, right? I mean, that's the way.
It would be. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
It'll be kind of fun to watch because these guys, like I said, they're drooling idiots, and the idea that anybody could lose to them at all is kind of massively infuriating. And just they shouldn't be any as far as they are. Like they're out of power, and they still seem to be getting so many things that they want, regardless of it. And like, I think the problem with the Democrats is they know that people like us, trans people, queer people, black people, immigrants and stuff, like if they vote for the Republicans, they're kind of voting for their own doom. So we're kind of a captive audience to them, so they don't feel like they have to try, and that not trying might actually drive off moderate and centrist voters who only kind of care about kitchen table issues, like, oh, what's the GDP and stuff like that. Not like that it even matters, and the previous guy was talking. The previous caller mentioned, watching people like Target just cave when they get even a fraction of what gets leveled at the queer community daily, and it's just things to be concerned about. But don't lose hope, because every breath that we draw is a fuck you to the people who want us dead. So.
Right.
But
well, thanks for the call.
Yeah. Oh, and
go ahead.
Add into the Discord. Add into the Discord.
I will have to send
it.
Yes.
If I say it 2 times, you'll remember.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Peace.
Have a good night.
All right, we'll do one, maybe 2 more calls. I'm feeling went long with David Bixenspan, so I'm feeling the. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, I just got mentioned as well. It's Anne from the UK.
Oh, are you calling in to remind me to add Anne from the UK to the Discord?
No, I wasn't. I was calling in to lecture you and Mike about not recognizing pound symbols versus euros on Leftist Mafia last week.
Oh, I think
you guys misread it as pound.
Did I? That was. You have to understand, just like on this show, when there gets to be a certain time, on Leftist Mafia, when we hit a certain time, we're like running on fumes. I probably misspoke. Yeah.
I did see something kind of tech doom dish related today that I thought, yesterday, that I thought would be interesting. Have you heard that allegedly some Russian neo-Nazi militias have been using streamer platforms to get donations for their funding? There was a a ITV article about it recently. They've been using like crypto and streaming platforms from the Netherlands to like filter money to a few groups, Rusic or something. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting in terms of a scam economy doomed crossover thing. Otherwise, we got things like someone got arrested for trying to burn down 5G towers in the UK because apparently the 5G conspiracy stuff is still a thing in the UK for some reason. Some Tory MPs got arrested for racism, racial slurs, and well, racial insults and all the rest of it. All the usual UK stuff. But yeah, the updates in the UK.
I didn't know about either of those things, so thank you. You always call with the usual UK news, but now you're bringing me news from Russia as well.
Well, some people complain when I talk about exclusively the UK, so I thought I would just casually mention the
No,
other stuff as well.
I like it. I mean, you're calling with information based on where you are. I mean,
also, just because it's the month of people incorrectly pointing at certain communities for having certain higher rates of certain crime, someone got arrested in the UK for being a satanic pedophile individual. They were a vicar, not an LGBT person. They got arrested with thousands of images or something apparently, and were apparently a Satanist on the side. And it's just of course the Satanists are the weird religious people, because trans people and LGBT people generally usually aren't the most religious. Obviously there are some exceptions, but obviously when you've had religions persecuting against you your entire life, you tend not to be the most religious people, so the likelihood you believe in Satan seems quite low to me. But yeah, otherwise just usual stuff. I will very briefly look at chat, mainly talking about...
Everyone's talking about me getting you their Discord.
Oh, nice. I have requested... Yeah, I am getting people to build a U.
No, I need to get it too. It's my fault.
That's
It should be automatic, but it's not. I need to fix it.
It's mainly because I don't... Because in this case, obviously, I paid you via emotes rather than paying, is why they're nagging you, because you offered me a Discord link as a sort of thank you for doing those.
No, it's not. Oh well, it doesn't matter because it's not automated right now because it's not working.
Yeah.
So either way,
True. Also, people kept the Twitch people keep complaining that the emotes aren't added yet, repeatedly in chats. That's the other reason I was saying to bully people. Someone's saying you should use Discord, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll get it to you though. I'll get it to you for sure.
That's fine. Thank you. Anyway, that was pretty much all. Thank you for the call.
No, thank you for calling in, and as always, thank you for those emotes.
Also, I'll send you the link to the ITV thing if you're vaguely interested in that sort of Russia cryptocurrency.
Yes, definitely send that to me. Yeah, I want to check that out.
Because that seems like your kind of beat.
Yes, it is very much so. Thank you so much.
I was wondering if that made its way to. I was wondering if that story made its way to the US or not, because it was labeled as an ITV exclusive here, and I wasn't sure if it was actually specifically ITV or not.
Right, I'm sure it was going around. I just didn't see it, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe I mean, ITV is available here too, at least the online stuff. So, but yeah.
Fair enough. Anyway, have a nice night.
You too. I'll do one more call. Let's see. Really quick though. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey Matt, it's Josh from California. How you doing?
Hey, Josh from California. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Did you talk about the pencil-thin mustache?
pencil thin mustache. No.
Yeah, Vince's like snidely whiplash.
Oh, right. No, we didn't really touch upon that. Not yet, at least. We'll have to do a whole episode on that. We didn't really touch on the Vince stuff too much because we were running out of time and there was a lot to get to.
How he really leaned into being a gross pervert when he came back from all of the sexual assault allegations. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
He always plays a character. You got to give him that. So what I wanted to talk about quickly was the Cornel West stuff. I don't know if you've seen this.
Oh, yes, I have. Yes. Oh, boy.
And it's just, I mean, it's a little disappointing. It's not super surprising in that he is. A lot of people seem to be very much in that orbit of anti-establishment no matter what. And like that's the ideology, is that more than left or right or harm reduction or anything else. It just seems to be like whatever you can do to poke the most people in the eyes. But going on Russell Brand and announcing your run with the Jimmy Dore party or whatever is not a great look. Also sitting on a board in Florida with the CLT board, like they do literature review with Chris Rufo. It's Ron DeSantis is appointed a board to oversee the the literature review that they do, like what's approved in schools, and Rufo is one of the heads of the board, and Cornel West sits on it, so I don't know what that's about. But
I had to read. I wanted to read. I bookmarked one of those, something about that. Yes, I need to look into that more.
Yeah.
It's I don't even know where to begin with that, honestly. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's all really uncomfortable, to be honest. Like, it just feels like, and I mean, there are plenty of people who maintain their positions over the years, yourself and Sam and included, but it just seems like there's a lot of people just sort of waiting for a handshake with a little bit of green in it to come over to the other side on the left, and it's a little frustrating and also concerning as far as who to trust. Yeah, so that was really bothering. It bothers me, and I just they're not going to do anything, honestly, because it's the Movement for the People's Party or whatever is registered in 3 states. So it's like New York City or not New York City, but New York, New Jersey, and maybe Pennsylvania. Then that's the only one that's concerning. If third-party votes in Pennsylvania could be a problem electorally, but I doubt it'll even last that long. To be honest with you, he'll run and drop out by the election would be my guess. The other thing I wanted, I don't remember his name, your first caller, not Bixenspan.
Oh, Alan, yep.
Yeah. You were talking about how it feels like a bad moment, and it does, and things are very cyclical, and generational, and don't forget, there were still open lynchings across a lot of the South in the 60s, and so it's about a 20-year thing. You had the Satanic Panic in the 80s, and then like you said, the anti-Muslim stuff and anti-gay stuff. People forget George Bush ran on a anti-gay marriage amendment to the Constitution in 2004. So the fervor comes and goes, and it's every 20 years. There's a really interesting history of panics in the U.S., and it does seem to be every 20 years as a new generation comes of age, or ages into being old is maybe a better way, because it always seems to be driven by people on the cusp of retirement who are trying to figure out their place in the world when their identity is no longer their job. So things are very cyclical. So it will get better. The only thing that really concerns me about that, though, is the ticking clock behind everything that is climate change, which that could be the thing that is not going to let it get better, because ecofascism is a real threat.
Yeah, I mean, we're as we speak here in New York. We can smell the burning. This isn't. I mean, I know this is if you're on the West Coast, this is nothing new, but this is not normal for here. There are fires in Canada, wildfires in Canada, in Quebec, I believe, and you can the air here. It's blown down here, and we literally smell burning wood from Canada, and it's the skies were all covered in not clouds but smoke today.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating because, I mean, not nobody, but even most of the staunchest climate deniers at this point are like soft deniers, like, oh, it's happening, but it's not entirely human made or whatever at this point. But the problem.
Oh, hold on one second. I just realized Dylan Burns just rated me about 10 minutes ago. Thank you so much, Dylan. Really appreciate it. And if you're Dylan's viewers, this is the part of my stream where I take calls. I'm winding down though. This might be the last call. Maybe I'll take one more. And thanks for the raid, Dylan. And if you like what you see here, catch a show from the beginning, because this is where I'm starting to lose steam a little bit. But follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/MattBinder. As you were saying, Josh.
Yeah. Oh, also, Dylan Burns has a real fan in your chat who shows up from time to time. It's Dylan CIA Burns, who just shows up.
Well, Dylan's been on my show multiple times. So
yeah, no, I know he shows up to shit talk Dylan Burns randomly. It's kind of entertaining as a troll.
Right.
Yeah. So no, what's really frustrating about what's even sort of worse is we believe the science, we believe that it's happening, we believe that it's carbon and human activity and whatever, but I'm going to allow you to drill 2,000 new wells in public land because I have to care what the conservatives are going to think about this. And it's like, a lot of people respect strength, and if you would just tell them to shut the fuck up, I think there would be more of people wouldn't feel so bad about voting for the Democrats, like, and identifying as a Democrat. Like, I think they've been spineless pussies for the last 40 years. This is since Mondale or whatever, since Reagan, essentially, and they're still terrified of it, of like the backlash to that, and so everything has to be couched, and some of it's like industry capture and all of that kind of stuff too, but so they don't actually want to do any of it, but cowards. You have AOC and a couple other people that will at least use the language of fighting, but it's really that's even worse to me than like saying, oh no, it's not happening, because it's like, yes, I know it's happening, but what are we gonna do about it? They won't let us do anything, and it's like, that's pathetic. It's the same shit where you hold both houses, and you refuse to even examine things that would help you consolidate your power, and at the same time better represent people.
Right.
we have 13 circuit courts now, so there should be 13 justices. We have, and make Joe Manchin vote against it. Like, make him do shit publicly. We set the number of representatives in the House of Representatives back in 1913. There were 96 million people living in this country. We're over 330 million now. Change that so it's one person per the smallest state in the union getting a representative. So I think it's Montana has 700,000 people. I live in an area that has the same amount, the district that the House district that I'm in, and probably the one that you're in, has 10 times as many people. So my vote counts 10 times less.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, you've heard this argument before, but it's just like this level of cowardice is, and just rolling over and unimaginativeness is just really frustrating. And so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm
No,
rambling now, but
No, I mean, I hear you. It is frustrating without a doubt. I mean, but it's good to it's good to get it off your chest. I hear it. Trust me, I hear you.
yeah, and that's pretty much all I had to say. It's just like, if they're again, actually, you were talking about the fires. We haven't had one this year, and it's like, it just rained this morning, and it's June, so it was supposed to stop raining like 4 months ago, because that's sort of the end of our rainy season, and so everything's all fucked up. It's great. All right, man. I will let you get to your other callers. Or
No, thanks for the call. Always a pleasure.
Sleep or whatever.
No, I think we're gonna call it a night.
All right. Have a great one.
Have a great one too, Josh.
Bye.
All right, let's read some super chats, and maybe I'll take one more call. Let me see. Did I mention Miss Siren's $20 super sticker? Thank you so much, Miss Siren. And then we got over here we got Crew Herks with the super chat. Just wanted to say, support the wrestling companies who don't go to Saudi Arabia yet are still successful in putting out good content. Absolutely. NJPW, AEW, obviously. Yeah. Tokyo Hans with a super chat. Not a pro wrestling fan, but this was fascinating. Also, remonetize Mike. Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report has been remonetized in what is devastating news for me, honestly. Wanda with a super chat. I've been volunteering in the Virginia primary, all 100 state house reps up for re-election, June 20th primary day. If you live in Virginia, go vote. Save Virginia. Absolutely. Everyone go out. Listen, it really is the least you can do. Like, it's not the end all be all, but it's super important. Just vote, folks. Vote. Especially in these statewide races. They matter so much, way more than your vote matters in a presidential election. And really, this is where it matters. And this is where it'll most affect you too. Like, this isn't like, oh, I voted for the lesser of two evils and what did it get me? No, this is where it does affect you directly. This is where it matters. For real. I mean, listen, it matters in the presidential election too, but I get it. When you're dealing with a national race, it's a little bit different. This is definitely where you need to vote if you got to pick. Because then those state houses end up, creating the maps for the larger U.S. Senate, U.S. House, and, well, it's not the Senate because that's statewide, but the U.S. House races. So, yeah, it matters. It matters. So Ren says, all my money is going to Mike now. Emega says, no more money for Matt. Oh, no. Oh. Horrible, devastating news for me. My Skype just froze. I'm not even joking. Like, that's not even my way of saying I'm not taking calls. It literally just froze. Very weird. Let me reopen it just to make sure it's okay. I don't know if I'm going to take another call, but let's see. Let's check over on Twitch. Now, this is weird because I noticed that there were 3 additional subscribers over on Twitch, but they're not showing up in the feed. That's odd. That's not normal. No. I don't know. Let's see. No. Is this it? No, that's not it either. That's weird. Well, twitch.tv/MattBinder, of course. Thank you so much to $27 and Dylan Burns for the raid. If you're new to this channel, please definitely subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/MattBinder, or at twitch.tv/MattBinder. I stream regularly, multiple times per week. Usually Tuesday nights is Doomed. Thursday nights is Leftist Mafia, where I get together with multiple lefty streamers that you know and love. I'm too tired to name drop everybody. I also do Scam Economy. That used to be weekly. I'm trying to get it back to being weekly. We got certainly a number of episodes coming up over the next few weeks. Date of the day of the week to be TBD, to be determined. Skype has frozen on me. I don't understand why. Very weird. I'm going to take this call just to see what's going on. I hung up on them. Sorry. Call back in. I'll take one more call. Whoever calls in first, you're going to get me.
Hello?
Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Osama from the world. I'm not from Canada anymore.
I got it. Hey, Osama, I'm taking your call because there was something going on with Skype, and I wanted to make sure it worked. So you're lucky that I'm picking this phone up. So let's make a nice, short, quick call and wrap up the show.
I have to be stubborn because I have to keep calling back.
It's all good. No, I love anyone who calls into the show on a normal basis. I love anyone who calls into the show on a one-time off basis. But really quick, go ahead.
So okay, we can make it short. I think I did not made like a super sticker or something, a super chat or whatever during the Leftist Mafia, and you read it during the show, and you're like, you can call in time. I do call-ins.
Oh, right.
I know you do call-ins.
Right. So what was your?
I donated during the Leftist Mafia.
Oh, right. And you had a question, but it was too long. Right. What was it?
I don't know. The question wasn't too long. That's different. I was talking about.
Oh, it was a different thing.
Maybe coming on and talking about this area of the world and the genocide of my people. But maybe that's a dark topic for a group chat. I don't know.
No, we should definitely have that conversation, but it's not the
because I'm not an expert, but I can paint the broad brush.
Where are you from? Where are you from again?
Do their own research.
Where are you from again?
Balochistan, Pakistan.
Right. Let's do that, but now is definitely not a good time because it's late in the night.
Of course not. No, right now.
So reach out to me. We'll set
with
something
the leftist
up.
Mafia. So
right.
I don't know if you read your DMs on Discord or Twitter.
Oh, I will have to catch up on those. I usually try to catch them. I know there are a number of people who reach out to me and I miss them.
I think it's Yeah, hidden behind the
message request. Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
And
in
you have
Discord
to
as well.
you have to understand that is full. Not in Discord, but in Twitter for me, it is full. I get
Okay, then look.
garbage. I get garbage, spam, scam,
Don't worry.
bullshit.
I see
like
that too.
100 times a day. So all the good
Yeah.
stuff gets pushed down. So I gotta spend like a day or two one day, one of the coming up, and just go through it and make sure all the good people who
Just look
are
at
real.
Discord.
I gotta make sure they go in the right one.
Just look at the Discord one. I think that's
All right.
for the,
I'll
that's
check
the
that
really
out.
chapter. Yeah.
Thanks, Usama.
Other than that, was this like a pro wrestling show or something? Because I joined the live
it would
call.
definitely go back. We talked about pro wrestling throughout the whole show, yes, except for
That's
the
nice.
second half of the show with the calls. But
Yeah.
yes, me and my guest David Bixenspan, it was a pro wrestling show.
Nice. Did you like the new world title that Reigns got?
No,
It's kind of tacky. I don't know.
no,
But
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
it's
When
ugly.
will they give them the women the new titles? Because the Raw women's title is on SmackDown and the SmackDown women's title is on Raw.
Yeah, it's so.
And they just rename it. Just rename it.
They're a mess. They're a mess. A mess.
Just rename it and make new titles. Like remove the W. Like why do you need? Everyone knows you're the WWE. They're watching you. Like they're literally watching you.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I won't bother you more. Okay.
No,
a good one.
you're not bothering me. Hold on, you're not bothering me. But have a good night.
Yeah, but you need sleep. I think your kids need you to wake up as well.
Let's get you on this show earlier in the day, and we'll chat for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Have a good
All
one.
right.
Bye.
Peace. All right, folks. Once again, youtube.com/MattBinder, twitch.tv/MattBinder. Oh, who should I raid? Oh, and patreon.com/MattBinder. Who should I raid over here? Let's see. Who's on right now? Ooh, Hassan is on. Hassan's never on when I'm streaming usually. But my raid of Hassan would be pointless. Let's see. Who's on? Who should I raid? You guys give me the suggestion and I'll send it their way. I see USA Hole is on. I see Hamosi Goat is on. But that's all I see on other than Hassan. Those three is who is showing up for me. Let's see. And let's do, is Cosmopolitics on? I don't see her. I don't. Oh, I do see Cosmopolitics. Yeah, I haven't rated Cosmopolitics in a while. Who else is on? I'm looking at what people are recommending. Oh, I'm not gonna rate Hassan. I was joking. A rate of Hassan would be pointless. That's really nothing he gets out of it. Let's do Cosmopolitics. It's always fun to raid streamers who I don't usually raid, and I don't know why Cosmopolitics wasn't showing up on my feed. I'm following her. Well, here we go. Let's raid Cosmopolitics. All right, folks. Thank you so much for your support. Patreon.com/MattBinder, YouTube.com/MattBinder, Twitch.tv/MattBinder. Follow me at MattBinder on pretty much any social media platform. And I will see you all next time on Doomed.